35 years into production, and the Miata is still the go-to when it comes to affordable sports cars. Everyone's heard by now, Miata is always the answer. And here for 2024, we are into the ND3 generation. So that's the 4th generation, the 2nd refresh here. As always, we're going to go through this thing from the outside in, talk about what the updates are for 2024. And I personally am excited to be in an RF club finally. Driven about 4 different Miatas, and they have all been Grand Tourings. So I'm excited to check this one out. Let's go ahead and take a look. For 2024, we have the same 5 trim levels. We got the 3 ragtop versions and then the 2 with the retractable fastback here. The hardtop, you're gonna get either a club trim level or a Grand Touring when you get the RF. But don't think of them as one trim level is higher than the other one. The club is a little bit more sort of sporty oriented, whereas the Grand Touring is more of a Grand Touring car, more just your street driving, cruising around. Now, it doesn't mean it's any less capable, but we'll get into that as we go here. Now, new for 2024, we do have a new gray color called Aero Gray. I don't know why everyone's adding all these grays. It's a sports car. It needs new bright colors. Last year, they added this zircon sand color. Sand and gray are not really sports car colors. Give me something bright, something interesting. Underneath the hood here, no changes for the ND3 generation. We've got the same engine that we had in the ND2 refresh, so that changed in 2019. Is a 2-liter 4-cylinder. It is a Skyactiv G motor here. Mazda's tried and true motor here, and this thing makes 181 horsepower, 151 pound-feet of torque. Not exactly a powerhouse, but it also weighs under 2,500 pounds, and it's got that whole slow car fast thing going for it, which of course we'll talk about during the drive. And it's actually surprisingly pretty fuel efficient too for a sports car. Looking at this tiny little toy car from the side and the RF Club, you're not going to notice any differences here between 2023 and 2024. There are some new wheels for 2024, but you're not going to see them on this car because the RF Club comes standard with the Brembo brake BBS wheel package here. So these BBS wheels are the same as last year. They're kind of a gunmetal color is what they're calling it. They're pretty close to black here. Those Brembo brakes, we'll talk about the brakes a little bit more during the drive. Still nice short wheelbase here, 91 inches for the wheelbase. That's really about the smallest thing you're gonna find on the new market. Some things that are gonna set this apart from the Grand Touring trim. The wheels, as I mentioned here, you're still gonna get 17s, even if you're in the Grand Touring, still gonna be wrapped in Summers. These are on Potenza S001s. The wheels are gonna be different. You get the black mirror caps here, the black side sills here, and the black roof. Those are gonna be your differences here from the side. In the back here, we've got this little black subtle spoiler thing going on. We've got a front splitter on the front as well, that's black. The RF here, the retractable fastback, this top will come down in about 13 seconds. You do have to sit inside and hold the button, and you get more of a Targa. It's not really a convertible, it's more of a Targa top. It's just the center here. The convertible is nice and easy. If you are a convertible person, then you're gonna wanna get that one. You can be sitting in traffic, you just unhook it and swing it back nice and quick. But if you're more of a coupe type person, maybe occasionally like to have the top off, I really like the look of the RF here. These mirrors here, if you want auto dimming, you got to go up into the Grand Touring. Unfortunately, I wish that was an option here, but you do get the blind spot monitoring on that standard. You do have keyless access here standard with the little button. I do wish there was a button on the inside instead of just one on the outside, just to eliminate some of the ambiguity of whether it's locked or unlocked, but not the end of the world there. And as you can see, these do not power fold. This thing is so tiny in most situations, it's not really gonna make a difference whether it's power folded or not, but you can just pop that up if you're concerned about it, of course. Front end here, we got LED headlights, we got LED daytime running lights. That's gonna be new here for 2024, the new LED daytime running light elements in the headlights here. If you want auto high beams, if you want auto headlights, you've got to go up into the Grand Touring. Unfortunately, not even auto headlights. A little bit frustrating to see here. I wish that was at least an option, but Grand Touring will get you those auto headlights. Grand Touring will also get you adaptive headlights that will corner with you. Love to see those. Just wish that you could get them on the club trim here. Again, we got the black splitter across the front because this is the club. We got plenty of bugs up through here. I don't know what it is about the Miata that attracts so many bugs. Porsches kill bugs fast. This thing kills bugs slow, but it kills just as many. On the back here, we do have one change for 2024. These LED taillights are all new, so subtle change if you're trying to distinguish between two cars, but that is the only difference that you're going to see back here, actually. And as I mentioned with the club trim, we do have this little spoiler. We got some black trim down here with those little cute little exhaust tips down there. Not exactly the biggest exhaust, but not exactly the biggest engine. I wish there was some kind of way to pop it from back here, but you can pop the trunk from inside, or you can pop it from the key right here. And by trunk, I mean tiniest little space here. You can maybe fit a duffel bag or two back here, but not really a whole lot. The RF does lose a tiny bit of space if you go from small trunk to slightly smaller trunk, just because it needs a little bit more room for that retractable hardtop. But either way, you're still going to get a really small trunk back here. Inside this cave here, this is a very small place to be. I'm 5'7". I fit just about perfectly. If I were 5'8", 5'9", it might be okay. Any taller than that, and you're starting to bonk your head on this thing. But I fit perfectly in here, and the thing I'm even more excited about is I fit perfectly in these Recaros. The last time I was in a small car with Recaros, it was a Fiesta ST, and I'm pretty sure my kidneys are still bruised from that. But these seats fit perfectly. They're bolstered just right. They hold me nice for corners and stuff. If you're on the smaller side, you might be moving around a little bit more. If you're on the bigger side, it might be a little bit more uncomfortable. For me, these are perfect seats. Now, if we were in the ragtop version of the club trim, we would have new seats. There's a new seat for that one, but here, this one has the Recaro package standard in the RF, so we don't have that new seat. We got leather wrapped everything. They've moved around some of these buttons on the wheel. In the Grand Touring automatic transmission version for 2024, there's adaptive cruise, so presumably that's why they sort of moved around the cruise control buttons on here. No adaptive cruise on the manual though, in Club or in Grand Touring. They updated the display over here, this little digital display off to the left. It's high contrast. They updated the graphics a little bit. I guess it's a little bit easier to see. Not really a huge change there, but you got your temperatures there and you got your range over there and some trip information. You got the nice big tack in the middle. Actually analog, nice big speedometer on the right, actually analog. Love that we still have analog gauges here in a driver-focused sports car. The differences are going to be the infotainment here with the new widescreen, the 8.8 inch, the updated system. Online it says Apple CarPlay is wireless, but it doesn't mention Android Auto for some reason, but Android Auto is also wireless. And we do have this knob button system down here, but you can go into your settings and tell it that you still want to allow touchscreen while driving for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. That is great because those systems were built to work on touchscreens, and it makes it so much easier. And I don't have the same problem I had in the CX-90 where it still wasn't made to like reach. That screen was like too far out of reach. They hadn't brought it forward, but in this, you know, it's a Miata. It's so small, you can reach that no problem. And I know in the past, some people have had issues with Apple CarPlay. I've never had any issues with Android Auto. And this past week, Android Auto has been totally flawless with the new system. So no problems there at all. If we were in the Grand Touring, we would have the auto dimming mirror with the home link. Unfortunately, the RF Club does not have that as an option, but that is new for the Grand Touring, that frameless mirror. We got some sand color spilling in from the side here. We got heat on these seats, no ventilation, even in the Grand Touring. The Grand Touring also has a new seat option with tan Napa leather, if you're into that, but I love these Recaro seats. Got some USB-Cs down here, your buttons for opening and closing the top. We got manual climate control. You can get automatic climate control in the Grand Touring, but there's like 3 cubic feet of space in here, so you know, manual control is fine. I wish there was a wireless charger down here. I've been keeping my janky garage door opener down there. A little bit of space in here. Have a real manual handbrake. Love to see that. You move around these cup holders if you want. You got some storage space brought to you by the same people that brought us penny loafers. fit a roll of quarters in there if you want. You can fit another roll of quarters behind the passenger seat over here. Not a whole lot of space in here, but you know, for what this car does, this is really set up nicely. We got manual seats as well and manual steering wheel, saving the weight there. No reason to have automatic for those things. I'd rather just save the weight, and that's what Mazda has done here. You know, just the interior is not super high end, but it's more high end than like a GR86. It feels a little nicer in here than a GR86. It's really going to be the most direct competitor, and it's really just focused on driving here. Oh, and we've got the Bose sound system. 9-speaker Bose sound system is going to be standard in the RF version. Kind of wasted to have anything higher end than that because it's loud in here. Wind noise, road noise, they're going to be loud. So no point in putting a higher end sound system than that in this Club RF. Everything in here really just perfect for the driving experience, as long as you're not super tall. As always, I've been driving this car around for the last week, daily driving as well as plenty of spirited drives, because that is just what the Miata does best. But yesterday I was able to find a 2023 Grand Touring to get into. Big shout out to Dowling Ford for letting me just pop in and drive that, because I really wanted to get a baseline for the big mechanical changes from 2023 to 2024, as well as the differences between the brakes of the Grand Touring versus the Club. And I apologize for all of the bugs on the windshield. I swear the little kamikaze bugs just like to aim for the smallest target on the road. Every time I drive a Miata, it's just filled with bugs. But the big changes for 2024 here. So we're going to have the new limited slip differential. In 2023 and 2024, no matter what year ND2 or ND3 Miata you get, if you want the limited slip differential, you have to get the manual transmission. You will lose that if you get the Grand Touring in automatic. You're also going to lose the Bilstein shocks if you get the automatic. You're also going to lose one hell of a good manual transmission if you get the automatic. But the new limited slip differential here, it's an asymmetrical limited slip differential. It has a cam on it to allow for a little bit more variability. It's supposed to help improve so you get less oversteer when you're going hard into a corner and less understeer when you're coming hard out of a corner. And yesterday when I went into that ND2 and I started pushing it hard even on the street, not on track, not on autocross, I started pushing it hard on the street and I was getting a ton of understeer, whereas this one, the ND3, entire week, no matter how hard I push it, again on the street, I'm not doing track levels of pushing it, I'm not doing autocross levels of pushing it, but it is an equal playing field here. I have not had any issues with understeer at all, period. I had a little bit of unwanted oversteer when I just took a hard U-turn, but if you want it to oversteer, you certainly can get it to. But the whole idea of the limited slip differential is to stop you from getting the unwanted oversteer and understeer, and it is absolutely much more balanced going through corners. No issues with understeer. A little bit of slip going through the corner, a little bit of oversteer. But again, that's about the only time I've gotten anything that's unwanted, and it's very easily controllable. The other big change for 2024 is the steering rack has been updated. So it's supposed to have a much more on-center feel, much better on-center feel, and it's a lot stronger locking into center. Makes it easier when you're cruising, and it makes it a little bit less, you know, a little bit more direct when you're on the tight roads and stuff. And that is something I feel like most people probably won't even notice, honestly. Unless I was looking for it, I probably wouldn't have noticed. But once you start looking for it, you do see the difference. There's a little bit more slop in the center when you're in an ND2, whereas this one is just much more buttoned up in the center, has a much stronger on-center feel here. And then there's the brakes. The brakes haven't changed year over year, 2023 to 2024, but when you're in the Club trim, then you get the Brembo brakes. If you're in the Grand Touring, then you get the standard brakes. Honestly, street driving, I don't really notice a difference between the Brembos and the standard brakes. The regular brakes are really good. I imagine if you're autocrossing this, or if you're on a like extended spirited drive, maybe there could be a bit of a difference in terms of brake fade, in terms of how they handle heat. I'm not sure. If standard street driving, even when I start to push it here 7, 8, 9, 10s, it doesn't really have any, I haven't had any issues with the regular brakes or the Brembo. So I wouldn't necessarily factor that into your decision if you're trying to pick between trim levels, unless you are going to autocross it, unless you are going to take this thing to the track. Those things, you know, especially with the limited slip differential update, that's something you will notice if you're somebody that pushes it hard on the street, that pushes your Miata hard on the street. If you are autocrossing it, if you're tracking it, then you're probably going to notice that difference between the limited slip differential. If you're somebody that just wants something to cruise around in, and you're not really driving it super hard through corners, then you probably won't even notice a difference in the updates. For 2024, they added a button in the Club and in the Grand Touring. It's going to be in both, where you can have this like track mode where it'll set your dynamic stability control to track mode so that it's like less involved. It's not getting in your way, but it's still there to save you if something goes sideways. You go sideways, a little too far sideways. The rest of this is the same. It's pretty much the same if you get the Grand Touring, if you get the Club, the rest of the mechanical stuff, the rest of the driving experience, and from 2023 to 2024, the rest of this is the same. We've got the same excellent manual transmission. This gearbox is one of the best on sale right now. The gears are nice and short, the throws are nice and short, the feel of the gearbox, it's so nice and tight, it's so easy to shift, it's a blast to shift. Now, I mentioned that the gears are short. If you follow the little indicator here, then you will be in 6th gear by the time you're at 30 miles an hour. You should ignore that because this is a Miata with a 7500 red line. You pay for the whole tach, you use the whole tach, and it is so fun to just ring out in every gear. And with the engine being, quote, underpowered, you can bring it out through 3rd gear, through 4th gear, and still be going legal speeds in most places. And that is really the best part about the Miata, is it's like a ceremony everywhere you go. You just ring it out in every single gear. There's lots of shifting going on. It is a full body experience. The clutch here, this is the only light clutch that I really like. There are plenty of cars now, modern cars especially, that have really light clutches. I do not like them typically in something that's like a sports car, something that you want to push a little bit more, because they don't have a lot of feel to them, and I don't feel like I'm really working very hard to use the clutch, and I want to feel a little bit more engaged. But in the Miata, even though it's light, it is communicative, it's easy to find the bite point, and this is why Miata is always the answer for everything, because somehow they managed to make a car that is fun on the street, easy to drive, easy to learn manual on. It's controlled. It's such a great car. Also, they added the kinematic posture control. That's like a software thing that sort of helps hit the brakes a little bit here and there as you come through corners to keep the back end balanced. So that helps a lot through the corners. And when you're going hard through corners, you do get a little bit of body roll, like enough body roll that you feel like you're actually doing something, but not so much that you feel like you're about to lose control at any second. It is definitely a much more balanced vehicle than it has been in the past. It's just such a fun car to drive. If you're gonna daily drive this thing, it is on the stiff side. It is a sports car. It's small, it's low, it's light. It is not going to be a super comfortable ride. If you got back problems, it's not going to feel great, but it is bearable if you're an enthusiast. If you could take a little bit more of a beating, then, you know, it's not going to be the worst ride in the world here. It's something that's definitely livable. It's just not a ride of comfort. And the same goes with the noise in here. It's loud in here. Even, you know, the ragtop is louder. You get a lot more wind noise, but in this, you get the wind buffeting with this one when you're on the highway especially, and you get a lot of road noise in here. It's loud. If you're in this car for a long period of time, if you're sawing highway miles, then, you know, the noise in here might start to get to you, especially since it does get, the engine noise also gets added into that. when you're on the highway, because you're hanging out around 3,000 RPM. I mentioned if you go for fuel economy, this thing wants you to be in 6th gear by the time you're going 30 miles an hour. So if you're 65, 70, 75 miles an hour, then you're hanging out like 3,000 RPM, 3,500, somewhere in that range. And so it does get a little bit drony. You got the engine noise, you got the wind buffeting, and you got the road noise all in. And here in Connecticut, they're tearing up all the roads, and repaving everything. So it has not been the most comfortable for the highway miles, but the back roads, the side roads, when you're shifting a million times and flying through corners, is just so fun. Visibility wise in here, it's sports car levels of visibility. We do have the small back window. It's not quite as bad, this pillar is not quite as bad as if you have like the rag top with the top up. Then that's, the visibility there is terrible, but then you could just pop the top down, you have unlimited rear visibility. This one, you have regular sort of sports car levels of visibility out the back, where you got this small window, and then we've got this massive pillar here because it needs that extra support for the retractable fastback. And for some reason, the last time I drove a Miata, I mentioned that there's a big blind spot on the side with that pillar there. A lot of people commented like, use your mirrors. The mirrors cover your blind spot, but the mirrors help. But the other day I had someone disappear from the rear view mirror and disappear behind this pillar, and they were not visible in my left-hand mirror. And I do know that there's a right way and a wrong way to set mirrors. The mirror is definitely set right, so there is definitely a big blind spot here. But just be aware, you do have the blind spot monitoring on there, and just, you're in a small car, you're in a sports car, you're less visible. Just generally speaking, it's a good idea to be a little bit more aware and a little bit more defensive on the road when you're in something small like this anyway. Now, I will say, even though I'm totally ignoring the shift lights and ringing it out quite a bit, I'm not ringing it out quite as much right now while I'm trying to shoot a video, but I've been ringing it out a ton all week, and I'm still getting 32 miles per gallon. Usually fuel economy doesn't factor in to a sports car purchase, to a fun car purchase, but I'm getting 32 miles per gallon. I'm throwing this thing around, I'm having a blast with it, I'm bringing it out in all the gears. I still maintain, if you are not having fun in Miata, if you're driving, one of these people drives a Miata and says it's too slow, or it's no fun, or it's a terrible experience, or whatever, either you're too tall or you're just straight up lying to whoever you're talking to or to yourself, because I don't know how anybody could not have fun in this thing. At the end of the day here, we have the same great formula with some great improvements, but I will say for 40 grand, you are starting to push up there in cost here for the most expensive trim level with the RF Club. If you are trying to decide between a 2023 and a 2024 based on the mechanical updates, based on the limited slip differential, based on the steering, or you're trying to decide between a Grand Touring and a Club based on the brakes, we'll say if you are not someone that pushes your car especially hard, if you're not somebody that's going on spirited drives every weekend or every day, if you're not going to autocross, not going to the track, then the updates probably aren't necessarily going to make a big difference to you. So you can definitely look at a lightly used one. You can get a great deal on a lightly used RF, 22 grand, 25 grand for an ND2, at least at the time of this recording. For me personally, the big thing about the Club would be the seats. I absolutely love the seats in this one. But if you are somebody that likes to throw your car around a little more, likes to push your car a little more, then you are definitely going to notice that limited slip differential update. This is a much more balanced car, definitely handles the corners a lot better than last year's, much less understeer, much less unwanted oversteer. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to hit all the YouTube buttons. Hate to say it, but it really does help me. Hit the like, hit the share, help me get into more cars, help me bring more cars to you. And thanks for watching. I will see you next time.